I slowly tiptoed over to the door and cracked it open and listened again. Since some of you have asked about the story, I will provide one. It's a long one, so strap in. This wasn't today, but was about 15 to 20 years ago. One of my good friends was having a party. This guy threw epic parties that would last weekends, so it was always a good time. This being in the middle of nowhere USA, the event was outside in the middle of the woods. We pulled up our vehicles, pumped up some tunes, and started to drink. It's important to note that I rode with my friend. Had to have been about 30 to 40 folks there at the start. We lit a bonfire and settled in for a night of underage drinking, death metal, and other miscellaneous debauchery. Most folks had left when the taps ran dry, but the core friends were still there, hanging on till the sun washed over our faces. This was the norm, and we generally would sober up and go home. Just before 1 AM we ran out of beer and decided to make a beer run to town. It wasn't far and we got there without issue. My friend went in to buy, since he was already 21, and then huffs it out to the car to put in the trunk. The whole time he's doing that, I noticed the town cop drive past the gas station we were at and is heading in the same direction our party was. He wasn't speeding, but I still had an odd feeling. Typically small town cops don't move from their speed trap space unless they have a 100% verified incident going on or they're picking up coffee/dinner. Before we left, I mention what I saw to my friend, and he tries to call his GF who was still at camp. No answer. Calls again on the way there. No answer. We were not far from the camp at that point, so he pulls over and we start to discuss our options. We had to have been talking for all of 10 minutes when over the hill ahead of us, we see the familiar red and blue lights coming right at us. My very inebriated friend decided to throw the car into reverse and is driving backwards on this straight loose rock back road. As we're backing up, we see another police car coming up from behind us. There was no escape. My friend yelled for everyone in the car that's not 21 to get the fuck out and run. He was left alone in the car at that point. It was smart of him to do this. A DUI isn't that bad compared to the contributing to the delinquency of a minor multiplied. I jumped out. We were surrounded by cornfields, so I just took off into the field. I had no idea where I was at, what direction I was running, or where in the fuck field ended. I ran in far enough to feel comfortably hidden, but not far enough that I couldn't see/hear what was going on with my friend. The cops rolled up pretty quickly and did their thing. I couldn't catch everything, but I knew they knew there were more people in the car. Someone at the party must have mentioned who/how many of us left. I must have sat there for over an hour as they processed him and called a tow for the car. I watched them open and dump the beer out of the trunk in the ditch. Wasn't long after 3 more squad cars rolled up. They get out with their lights and start combing through the field. They started shouting out our names as they were walking through. That was when I knew I was fucked. Luckily it was a breezy night, so it was easier to get through the field. It was also easy to spot where they were at/looking because they had to use their flashlights. Slowly, they started making their way towards me. About 10 feet away, the light stops and I hear, "Come on out, son, I see you laying in the dirt." So that left just me and one other friend out here possibly. At some point the other officers joined in the search. I kept slipping deeper and deeper into the field and tried to keep at least 10 feet between us. At some point I became uniquely sober. The alcohol had wore off, but the adrenaline was keeping me awake and alert. I was wet and cold and had to take a piss. I thought about just pissing myself, but being arrested and covered in piss didn't sound like a good time. As we moved back and forth, I wondered how bored these country cops were and how long they would look for me. I mean, these guys had to have a shift change at some point soon. I was so fucking wrong. We kept playing cat/mouse, I dare not run for it for fear they would hear me run. They kept calling out our names and telling us they just wanted to take us home. I heard a couple more cars pull up and some more people get out. Then, I hear that distinct bullhorn wheep sound, and then a voice booms across. It was the county sheriff, and he warned us that if we came out we would just be taken home, but if we made them keep searching that they would call our folks and they would arrest us. I knew this was a weak-ass attempt to make their jobs easier, and they would arrest us regardless. I was really afraid of their threat to call my parents though. I wasn't a bad kid, because I knew there would be repercussions for bad behavior. The trick to being a good kid is not get caught. It didn't look good for my record at the time. I knew I had to get home soon, and the sky was starting to lighten up. I knew as soon as the sun was out I would be royally fucked. I continued to move my way deeper into the field. At some point I couldn't hear them anymore, which meant they couldn't hear me, so I sprinted till I hit train tracks. I figured they wouldn't be looking for anyone on the tracks, and if I heard a train I would duck and cover. I walked down the tracks back into town to try to get a ride from another friend to my house. I was close to the edge of town and was walking up to the first rail crossing. Who just so happens rolled through, none other than the sheriff. By that time, the sun is out and I am clearly visible. He just stopped on the tracks. I'm far enough away that I couldn't see his face, but he can clearly see what I was wearing. There was zero hesitation and I bolted off the tracks into the woods. I sprinted as fast as I could in the best direction I thought my house was in. Now, if you haven't ran through the woods before, you may not know how dangerous it really is. This isn't just a romp through the forest. This is a mad dash of survival, hopping over downed trees, through running creeks, getting slapped in the face and throat with saplings, and getting caught on sticker bushes. I was very lucky to not have ran into any coyotes or snakes either, but I'm sure they wouldn't have fucked with me with how fast I was booking it. Soon I began to recognize the houses of neighbors, then the back road behind the field that's behind my house. I felt like I was almost home free. I hadn't seen another soul since the tracks and I could see the roof of my house through the trees. I thought I should be cautious going up to my house for two reasons though. 1, the police might be waiting for me there already. 2, Mom. The house I grew up in was set way back off the main highway among a grove of trees and enveloped with fields. Only one of these fields was typically used for corn, the rest were usually soybeans or alfalfa. I walked my way around the perimeter and was looking for anyone other than family, and there in the driveway sat the sheriff, right next to my car. Dad was right outside his window talking to him. I knew I was fucked, but only with Mom and Dad so far. I made my way towards the back of the house where I knew nobody in the driveway could see me. We had a back patio, but the door was off to the side and would have most definitely gotten me caught. I tried opening the living room windows, no luck. I tried the basement windows, nope. I tried Mom and Dad's bedroom window, bingo. At that point I just wanted to hop in the shower and was willing to get reamed by Mom to do it. I climbed in through the window as quietly as I could. After I was on carpet, I just stopped and listened. No sound in the house. The TV wasn't on. It was almost as if nobody was in the house but me. I slowly tiptoed over to the door and cracked it open and listened again. My mom told me it was okay to come out. Their door opened up into the living room, so I had no idea what I would find on the other side of that door. I remember taking a deep breath and just accepting my fate, and swung the door open. There sat Mom, alone on the couch. I remember her talking about how worried she was, and how she was glad I was okay and that we were going to talk about this later, but I needed to go take a shower and change my clothes. It was an odd request at the time, but she wasn't yelling at me, so I didn't question it. I go take my shower, and stuff my clothes into the attic. I remember it was almost 11 AM and I looked out the window, and I saw the sheriff was still outside, but Dad wasn't out there anymore. Mom and Dad yelled for me and I came out to them. They both told me how disappointed they were in me and that this will never happen again. Spoiler, it didn't. After that, they told me I was home all night playing video games and that I was never out last night. My dad and I walked outside up to the car and the sheriff asked me all about where I was last night and this morning. I told him the truth, I was home playing video games all night long. He said he had eyewitnesses that I was out at a party along with about a dozen other officers that were out looking for me that say otherwise as well. I stuck to my story, told him which games I had played and even what I had for dinner/snacks. I even told him what shows I watched on TV while I ate. It was a fucking miracle. After a hard 45-ish minute grilling he cut me loose. Told me he's got nothing on me other than a couple drunk kids that say I was there. He had already validated my story with my dad before. As we were walking away, he rolled his window down and told me that if I had been out there and they would have found me, and that this would have been a bad morning for my parents. I didn't get off that easy. My parents took away my license for almost a year and I was only allowed to go between school, home, and work. I also bailed so much hay that season I'm still fucking itchy. My friend was ticketed with a DUI and had his license revoked for a year. The friend that was caught got a $200 ticket for underage drinking. The other friend evidently booked it home as soon as his feet hit the ground outside the car. His parents never knew and he got away with it. And that's how I survived a manhunt. TLDR, got drunk, got busted, hid in the cornfields of BFE America and got away with it. Edit, I want to thank everyone for the awards and comments. It means so much to me to hear that so many people found enjoyment from this post. I'll try to answer as many questions asked I can that have come across from many people. Q. How were there cell phones in early 2000s in such a rural area? A. This was around the same time that a small company known as TracFone began to flood the market with the Nokia 5125. The monthly cost was pretty low, so most of us that worked had them. Q. Why did the police invest so much into finding you? A. Not really me. The group that I hung out with was well known for throwing some boisterous parties that were generally a nuisance for any of the locals. Looking back, I figure they were doing it to send a message that the party was over surprise. It wasn't. The friend that got the DUI continued to throw the best events. After all, you don't need a driver's license to buy alcohol, only an ID. Q. What kind of metal? A. We typically started with the classics like Pantera and Slayer, moved on to heavier things like Cannibal Corpse and ease up to some heavy rock like Metallica, Muse, Dream Theater, and Deep. My favorite memory of my teenage youth was waking up next to the fire, beer in hand just as Butterflies and Hurricanes by Muse began to play. The sun was rising just over the horizon and you could smell the sweet pollen of the corn around us. It was so empowering and invigorating. When I want to feel young again, I usually play that song and belt out all the lyrics I still remember. Q. Am I a writer? A. No, but I have secretly always wanted to be one. Maybe one day when I finally grow up, man dancing. Q. BFE. A. Bumfuck Egypt. I think that about covers most of the popular questions. I really do appreciate everyone making the last day of my 2019 the best day of the year. You all rock, rock on gesture. That was a story I never knew I wanted to read. Thrilling from start to finish. Damn, you got some snitching as friends. Edit, yeah, I get drunk driving and it cool and dumb to do, but the point was the friends that had the cops roll up on them did not need to tell the cops everyone's name who is coming back from a beer run. Yeah, that's the real takeaway here. What a bunch of rats, haha. My legs fell asleep reading this on the toilet 10/10. Long read but actually very entertaining. One of the rare instances where I've just come for the TL doctor and end up reading through the whole thing. I have a friend who booked it from a similar party, but we weren't even old enough to drive yet, lots of older siblings at these parties and such. This motherfucker hitchhiked and made it like 10 miles away to another friend's house, crashed the night there for an alibi, and showed up the next day like nothing happened. We were all going WTF. Where'd you go? Are underage drinking laws so strict in your countries? Here in Greece, if a cop sees you drinking while being like 14 years old, he won't do anything. He couldn't care less. Do they actually chase underage drinkers in the USA? Also fines for the parents. TIFU by puking on a stove/grill in a Japanese performance restaurant. The title is as bad as it sounds, and I think my life is ruined. Anyway, we went out to eat at a restaurant called Kabuki and I wasn't feeling very good before, but I didn't think much of it. When we got in there I immediately felt sick. All the cheering at the chef performers and the overwhelming smell of fish. I started getting nervous. We were then situated at the square bar around the stove where the cooks cooked our dinner and tossed knives and spatulas. I don't know why, but when they put the scallops on the stove, there it came, the puke. I started feeling hot and saliva filled my mouth. I then said something reluctantly to my family members like I'm not feel there it came. As I was trying to talk I clenched my fists and the thought of scallops couldn't leave my head. and then mid-sentence, puke just goes out as I leaned against my chair. Oh shit, oh fuck, oh god. It took me a second to realize what happened, but when I did, I looked up and everyone was saying something and backed away from the table. The chef was yelling something in Japanese to his co-workers as the most horrid smell filled the air. It was a smell I can't even explain. Almost like a mix of puke and diesel. After then I just ran to the bathroom, and when I finished there was cleaning everywhere on our table. Luckily most of the puke didn't hit the table and mostly the chair and floor. After that I'm sure they just burned the place down. It was a shitty building anyway, used to be home to a burger place. I haven't received a fine or lawsuit, but it doesn't change the fact that every person in that place won't ever come back. TL, drive, I puked on the stove in a Japanese performance restaurant and my vomit was cooking on the center table stove. I've been in kitchens too long. After reading the title all I heard was the tishes of the flat top. Lol, hope I didn't ruin that sound for you. I often don't truly mean it when I say it, but I'll make a special exception for you, you done fucked up. I can already imagine the smell. By the gods, no. My New Year's resolution is to not swear, but I fucked up. Kapuki. Sorry for the inconvenience, but Kapuki has been closed due to health violation. You know those embarrassing situations that pop into your mind right before you're about to fall asleep? Yeah, this is going to be one of them. You know how they say no one but you remembers those situations after a while? This is not one of them. I'm so sorry. I know that's the worst feeling when it's coming and you can't stop it. I have a puke story if it makes you feel better. It was during a college exam and I knew I had to leave the classroom ASAP. Except I was a new student and I didn't know where the bathrooms were, so I stepped outside hoping the fresh air would make it go away. As soon as I stepped outside I was vomiting into my hands. I ran to a trash can, and right as I was hunched over getting violently sick into the trash can, a bus of kids let off not 20 feet away. It was horrifying, and to make it worse I spent the next 10 minutes wandering the building with vomit on my face and hands looking for a restroom. I found one eventually, but it wasn't my finest moment. I'm just glad I got out of the classroom in time. What an awesome story, thank you so much. TIFU by not wanting to die a little too much. Here's some relevant info. I live on the 5th floor. It doesn't sound impressive, but the building is tall, so our 5th floor is like 8th or 9th floor really. Our apartment has 2 floors and the light bulbs in our house is orangish colored. This will matter in a second. I live with half of my family, including an uncle who's in the wheelchair. Around 4 AM I woke up to the sound of the smoke detector blaring and the smell of something burnt. My heart drops to the floor and I jumped out of bed, and because I was in such a hurry to leave I forgot to wear my glasses. Everything is blurry but I can see some things. My sister emerges from her room and beats me to the stairs, goes down, stops and then climbs back up. It is at this point my heart sunk even further. My heart is thundering in my chest and I choke on a sob that desperately wants to come out. In my mind's eye I can see it so clearly. Flames licking the kitchen cabinet above the stove and slowly spreading to us. So many things began to run in my head. How are we going to safely evacuate my uncle? Do we leave him behind? Wait, how do my sister and I descend down? Should we try jumping out of the window and to our neighbor's balcony? Will our death be quick or slow and agonizing? I, being the avid reader and TV watcher I am, decided the best course of action is to grab my blanket, wet it and wrap it around myself, and that's exactly what I did. I also forced the wet blanket around my sister despite her loud protests and shoved her down the stairs with me so we can run through the fire together. Except there are no fires. My blind dumbass was so confused and focused on trying to survive that I didn't even take a second to take a proper look at my surroundings. It would have taken a second. One question is all I had to ask. One question and this entire matter would have been resolved. My sister didn't ascend because there was fire blocking her way, she did because she realized my brother had the situation under control. The orange lights I saw weren't fire, they were light from our fucking stupid, made by Satan bulbs. I wrote, directed, filmed and acted out an entire drama in my own head while everyone went back to sleep, safe and sound and sane. So now I'm in my room, shivering because it's cold as fuck and the only blanket I had I fucking drenched. Apparently for no fucking reason. My sister has an ankle sprain cause I pushed her too hard and she fell down the remaining stairs. I worked myself up so much I vomited and I'm still feeling weak. I'm the butt of all jokes and our family chat group is lit with jokes, and from my room I can still hear the wheezing of my brother's breathless laughter, and every time I think he's done he cracks even harder. I've got this weird gut feeling I'm not gonna live this down. What the fuck? TL, doctor, I thought there's a fire in my apartment. There wasn't and I ended making a fuss for no reason. Edit, a little more explanation so I don't have to repeatedly answer the same questions. When my sister backed up, I ran to the bathroom to wet my one blanket. I threw it under the shower head and let it soak for a couple of seconds. I didn't stay to make sure every inch is covered. And the reason no one stopped me because almost everyone went back to sleep except for my sister, and she was on her phone standing nearby the stairs, just in case she was needed, and just assumed I was using the bathroom to pee or something. No one realized I was still panicking because I was freaking out silently. You know when your stomach hurts and it's tied up in all kinds of knots and a lump stuck in your throat so you can't really speak, because if you do, you'll absolutely break down. For most people this might be an overkill, and I'm sure there are dozens who would have assessed the situation calmly, but I am built different. I have a little extra stupidness in me. I don't handle stressful situation well at all. When I was in middle school, I hyperventilated and passed out because mom was 20 minutes late, and I told myself she abandoned me, also another family story that gets brought up a lot. And I was right. As soon as I woke up my family took the entire morning to roast me. No one was even touching their breakfast. We were laughing, I was reenacting and telling them about my thought process. Hell, my uncles and aunt, people I haven't heard from in years and thought they were dead, called in to make fun, so this one is going down in our family history books. It's all good though, I'm having a blast making fun of myself, and yes, I will be discussing future safety plans with my family. Edit 2, it was the smoke detector, not fire alarm, which is different, sorry. Tonight your uncle had learned that he's gonna have to fend for himself in an emergency, and is probably relieved about it. He pushed his sister down the stairs. He'd probably just launched the uncle out the window or something. You might use this as an opportunity to create a fire safety plan for your uncle so that he doesn't get left behind in a real emergency. You are literally never going to live this down. Absolutely love this story, oh my gosh. Your grandkids will be hearing this story, be prepared. The thought of your brother not being able to stop laughing makes this so much better. He agrees with you. It's morning now, and although he isn't laughing as hard, he still chuckles every time he looks at my face. Yeah, you're never getting out of this one. Sadly no. Would have been fucking hilarious though. Would love to see myself pushing down my sister while she's yelling at me.